Welcome to our video presentation sponsored by the Jesuit Retreat Center of Los Altos. I'm Kevin Leidich, one of the pastoral ministers here at El Retiro. For the last few presentations, I've been wondering about this particular question. How does a Christian and Christian community respond to troubled times? Whether these troubled times might be personal or affecting the wider society, as we are now facing during this global pandemic. Jesus gives us a 7-point strategy in the Last Supper account of John chapters 13 to 17. In my previous webcast, I presented the first 4 strategies that Jesus has given us when facing troubled times. The first, allow Jesus to work for us, to labor for us, to minister to us. The second, follow the example of Jesus and seek to serve others. The third, strive to live in the Spirit dwelling within us. The fourth, identify the work and tactics of the evil one. In this webcast, I present the 5th strategy. I live strengthened by the knowledge and experience of being chosen and sent by Jesus. But first, 2 stories. When I taught at Loyola High School in Los Angeles in the 1980s, we had a retreat program for seniors in which faculty members and seniors would go off to our Jesuit division, Santa Barbara, for an individually directed retreat. In those days, we had individually directed retreats for high schoolers rather than something on a group basis, which we have now. I remember this one young man, his name was Joe, and I suggested to him that he pray with Psalm 22, "The Lord's my shepherd." And so he was in his room. I went away for about an hour or so and came back and asked him how his retreat went, how his prayer went. He says, "Terrific. I stayed with the Lord my shepherd for the entire time." I said, "Terrific. That's excellent." I suggested a couple other passages he might pray with as a consequence of that or subsequent to the Lord my shepherd. I came back an hour later and asked him how his prayer went, and he said that he tried these other passages, but he wasn't drawn to them, but rather he's drawn back to praying with the image of the Lord my shepherd. I said, "Terrific." So I gave him a couple other passages he might consider. I went away again. I came back and he wasn't drawn to those other passages, but once again was drawn back for a third time to the Lord is my shepherd, was to stay in his prayer for that particular hour. The student was surprised by the experience of consolation that he received, a powerful experience through prayer of being chosen by Jesus. The second story, there's a family whose 5 sons attended a Jesuit secondary school, and I was privileged to teach most of the sons. The parents are both in the medical profession, serving as a doctor and as a nurse. Each year they participate in Operation Smile, whereby they volunteer a month to go overseas in order to bring medical attention to children in developing countries, particularly in Africa. Their oldest son has spent part of his college summers volunteering in Africa and did his doctoral research on various aspects of African agriculture. After graduating from university, a second son served for several months in Kenya at an orphanage for kids with AIDS. And a third son completed his 2 years in the Peace Corps in West Africa. There clearly is a grace which draws this family to share their gifts, time, and talents and be present to the poor in Africa, a grace of being sent by Jesus, confirmed by the long-lasting fruitfulness and profit to others. In John 15, verse 16, Jesus says, "It was not you who chose me, but I chose you and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will last." And in verse 19, "I have chosen you out of the world." In verse 9 of that same chapter, "Remain in my love." In John 17, verse 12, "When I was with them, I protected them in your name that you gave me, and I guarded them." In John 17, verse 18, "As you sent me into the world, so I send them into the world." In his autobiography, Ignatius experiences the working of God in his life through the image of a schoolmaster who has care for people. We are invited to an intimate relationship with Jesus, experienced through being chosen and sent by Jesus. The intimacy of this care is illustrated by John chapter 15 in the beautiful image of the vine and the branches. I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes away every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every branch that does, he prunes so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word that I spoke to you. Remain in me, as I remain in you. Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own, unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. These words are so autobiographical of each person's faith history and how the Lord prunes us, cares for us, and accompanies us, choosing us and sending us forth. In your rich histories, your graced histories, how have you experienced being chosen and sent by the Lord? How have these experiences been a source of strength and confirmation for you? How do you experience Jesus continually choosing and sending you forth in your ministries and your life context today? I encourage you to allow Jesus to minister to you through these questions and the memory of your grace history through these troubled times of our current pandemic. Thank you.